Hello everyone, and welcome back to the set here in the Central Florida Aerospace Academy. And this is Ben Coleman, your host for the Florida Aviation Network, coming to you live and in the clear, the 50th anniversary of the FUN International Expo and Fly-In and the Aeronautical Center for Excellence. We got to remember that we're talking ACE here, and we have someone here that knows a little bit about ACE. And I've been chasing this fellow around for years from different jobs, different locations, and we got him captured here for a full 22 minutes. Mr. Eric Crump.
Not anymore, not any less, right? It's good to see you, Ben.
Eric is always
and
good
hello,
to
everybody.
talk to you.
Long time no see.
And Eric is going to share with us what the ACE incentive is for this 50th anniversary. We're also going to talk about the Future in Flight plan, and this is kind of a little area that is set aside here on the campus. And we're going to talk about what happens the other 51 weeks here at the campus.
My actual job.
You really? Yeah,
this is a fun week. This is like vacation that you get paid for. Yeah.
Eric, tell us, I know this is kind of a new role for you. This is your second year. Newer role for you, but yes and no, because you've still been involved with education from as long as I go back with you.
Yeah, so I actually, from one of the Florida Aviation Network volunteers, actually Larry West, gave me a pin because he heard me say somewhere that my very first fly-in ever was in 2008. And Larry actually had a 2008 Sun and Fun pin, which is awesome. And he brought that to me. It's on my lanyard, which is hanging out over there somewhere. But yeah, I've been involved with the fly-in since 2008, and I think I've done all the things you can do here. I've been an exhibitor, I've been a sponsor, I've been a volunteer, been a donor, and now an employee. So I think that's what's a trifecta? What's a fivefecta? I've done the fivefecta of the Sun and Fun experience, but it's been awesome. And you and I have connected here and done this so very many times. In my former role, running the Polk State College Aerospace program here in Lakeland, Gleim before that. We've been knowing each other for a minute or two. But it's so surreal to be able to be connected with this 50th anniversary. It's such a big deal. It's a big deal to a lot of people, but it's also a big deal because of a lot of people. So even though I've only been in this seat, in this role for 2 years, I am very familiar with Sun and Fun. I started flying the day after my 13th birthday. I soloed on my 16th birthday. Growing up in a small town in Jasper, Alabama, I knew what Sun and Fun was. I've always heard about it. I had friends at the airport, mentors that I looked up to that came to Sun and Fun every year. And so to be able to come to Sun and Fun, starting in 2008 was huge, but to be able to work here and be a part of this legacy is enormous. When you look at it, on the rolls, on record, we have over 20,000 names of volunteers that have worked here on the grounds since 1974. Which is kind of amazing, really. Just this week alone, there'll be over 2,900 people here making it work. Our team is 44 people. There's absolutely no way on earth that 44 people can pull all of this off. Yeah. And it takes a volunteer army. Those pioneers who are out here pulling up palmetto trees and roots, and really, literally paving the way for what we have today. It's incredibly part of that legacy.
I wish you had the opportunity to have known Billy Henderson and Adair, and that quite a dynamic couple. But they did kind of set us on this track, and it's such a pleasure to see it develop so successfully. And I know that Billy would agree. And he's really here still with us. He's up there now, I think. But it's a tribute to also the industry. And I've got to give this to the aviation mentality, the mindset of, if you're going to do something, let's do it right. And let's pay the particular attention to where it needs to be. Right. And that's why I'm glad to see a person of your background get established in the education phase. And actually, Eric, to be honest with you, we're just big kids ourselves.
I said this
we're
this
not
morning
growing
to
up.
somebody, little boys get older, but I don't know that we grow up because I played with airplane toys, I flew remote airplanes, and now I fly big airplanes. I would love to own a big airplane. Maybe someday down the road we'll see what happens with that. But
No, Eric. The best airplane to have is somebody else's.
I know. People have always asked me my whole life, like, do you own an airplane? I always say no, and they're like, why not? And I said, because I know people who own airplanes. Why would I want to do? I don't own a boat either, but I know people who have them. You know what I'm saying? Who wants to go through that? But maybe one day. Watching my 4-year-old son grow up. He loves race cars and airplanes, so we are best friends. And so,
Excellent.
So I have 2 older daughters, a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old. They both love to fly, have no interest in actually moving the controls. But I think Wilson's going to be the guy. I think he's going to be my guy. I might actually get to teach one of my kids how to fly.
Well, and when you say your kids, I know those are your kids, but you have a lot of kids.
I have a lot of kids, so many kids.
Talk to me about the other 51 weeks.
Sure.
What you do with those kids.
Well, first, as you say about the flying, and I hear a lot of folks, particularly when we're talking about AirVenture, they're like, it must be tough because at AirVenture it's in the summer and kids can go because they're out of school. And I mean, I obviously there's a lot more kids that go to AirVenture, not just because it's in the summer, but it's AirVenture. We go to AirVenture too. Everybody goes to AirVenture. But we do have a lot of kids here. So we had 15,000 youth come through the gate last year. I think this year will be closer to 20.
I didn't realize it was that many.
It's huge. It's enormous. And so, like, when you go out into the Future in Flight Plaza, for example, you'll notice the Junior Aces tent. So this is hands-on workshops, lots of activities for kids to do here. We say there's something for everybody at every age. But so the kids actually, there's one of the stations, which is probably my favorite, and I think it'll probably be yours. They actually go in, we give them a circuit board and some resistors. They actually solder their own aviation radio. We give them an earbud, and they actually get to go out and listen to the air boss frequency during the air show. How cool is that?
That's cool.
You get to build
That
your
is
own
cool.
aviation band radio. I mean, who's learning to solder anymore? But these kids get exposure to that at a young age, in a controlled mentorship kind of environment. We've got flight simulators, air traffic control sims, just you name it, it's there. In our Beulah Restoration Center, kids are actually building a Zenith CH-750. The fuselage is together. One of the wings is pretty good and together, so over the course of this week, we're going to try to get both the main wings done and the tail section done. So it's fun. It's fun for anybody of any age. Last year, actually, I walked into Beulah, and we had we were building the fuselage last year. So this granddad has a 2-year-old, and he's like, can my 2-year-old rivet? And we were like, I don't know. I mean, I get.
Can
So
he hold a gun?
so the granddad is helping the 2-year-old. He popped 2 rivets on that airplane. The kid's losing his mind. He thinks it's so cool. But I mean, you got to start him young.
Yeah. Full rivets. We're not talking about bucking yet.
Not yet.
All right,
Not yet. We're pulling.
Okay.
No, we're pulling. We got to start. You got to start small, Ben. We got to start small. But so that's just the six days, and I tell people a lot that I consider these 6 days to kind of be like our open house, right? So the other 51 weeks of the year, we're very, very busy here. Over the course of this school year, we're going to have 4,000 fifth graders come through the Skylab Innovation Center, Florida Air Museum here on field trips. We were able to work out a great partnership with our school board, and actually due to the generosity of our local municipal airports, they're funding all the school buses to get the kids here. Polk County's huge. It's the side of Rhode Island, right? It's the 6th largest school district in the state of Florida. So there's a lot of kids here. If you take a pen and draw a 50-mile circle around Lakeland, Florida, there are 1.7 million K-12 students in that circle.
Grief.
So our area of influence is huge, and quite frankly, if we don't spread the word about aviation, who's going to do that? We have to be our own ambassadors. So,
Eric, say that a little slower about Skylab.
Yeah.
You just blistered right through that.
So
Talk to me a little bit
maybe
more
I take
about
it for granted because I see it every day. So Skylab Innovation Center was built in 2020. It was an extension of the work, again, that we talked about before, that our pioneers and leaders have been on for a long time. So for those of you that have been to Sun and Fun in the past, you may remember there's the Aerospace Pavilion, right? And there was an open air area, and there was the Florida Air Museum. So in 2020, we built 4 purpose-built STEM classrooms in front of the Florida Air Museum and connected all of it together with the pavilions. We made one big building out of 2 separate structures. All of our corporate offices are upstairs, and then downstairs we have a Redbird flight simulation lab, 20 networked flight simulators the kids can go in. It's my favorite lab in the room. I'm a little biased, but I love taking little kids in there, and I always ask them, how many of you think you can fly? And nobody raises their hand.
They do this.
So after 30 minutes, they can take off, do turns, climbs, and descents. I ask them again, and they all raise their hand. It's my favorite part of my job.
Good.
Because you just see the eyes open and the door open for those kids, and they're like, oh, I could actually do this. And I tell them, I hate to like pull the curtain back and reveal the mystery, but flying's actually kind of easy. The machine does all the work. It just needs us to point it in the right direction. But we have an engineering lab there where the kids actually design straw rockets to resupply the International Space Station. They get to work in teams, and they're learning trigonometry. They don't know that, but that's what they're learning. They go into our drone and robotics lab. They get to fly some small drones through an obstacle course and learn about line of sight and why that's important. And then in our Science on a Sphere lab, you've seen it, how awesome it is. Giant 8-foot ball that hangs from the ceiling, 4 projectors which actually project a round shape. So it's even better than IMAX. It's better than 3D glasses. It's an actual 3D shape. So we can go to all the planets, look at live global air traffic, and really help kids understand. The world is big, but it's more connected than they probably think it is. And why is it connected? Aviation.
Repetition. And also replication. Because right now, we've been talking about this for years, about replicating what's being done here. How is that coming along?
It's great. So we get an inquiry almost every week from a school, a teacher, a school district, somewhere around the country. It's like, I saw this on the news, or I've heard about it from somebody else. How can we do this? And we've had great success helping set up what I'm calling sister schools. I don't know how else to refer to it, but partner programs in Colorado Springs, Oregon, Hawaii, really everywhere all over the place. We're working with a group in upstate New York right now. We're very excited about what could come from that program. So we're a nonprofit. We're not here to make money, but we are here to make lovers of STEM. And the best way to do that is to create more opportunities for kids to love STEM. So we love collaborating with people. We've been at this for a while. When we got ready to build the Central Florida Aerospace Academy that we're sitting in, the FAA said you can't build a school on an airport. Like, I think we probably could. And then once we've proved that we could and it could be safe, then you get schools popping up on airports around the country. So in a lot of ways, people ask, a lot. The most common question I hear from schools is, how did you do this? And I answer, I didn't. A large group of people, city leadership, county leadership, education leaders, industry leaders. It takes a lot of people at that table to agree that it's what needs to move forward. And if you can build that kind of coalition, this kind of program can exist anywhere. It's getting the right people to see what it is and what it can be. It's funny because when this started, I think the Polk County Public Schools would have been shocked if 50 people, wanted to go into aviation. This school is full. We have a second CFA Academy in Winter Haven, and now we're talking about setting up middle school pre-academies in the county, a model which we hope we can copy in other districts around the country.
And I was talking to Fred Hyde, and that's going to be brick and mortar here pretty soon, isn't it?
Yeah, we're working with the school board to try to figure out a way to build another one of these brick and mortar schools. Right there in Portables at the Winter Haven Airport right now. Yeah. They're actually busing the kids back and forth between Winter Haven High School and the airport. But we want to get a brick and mortar school on that airport property.
Wow.
See another 500 kids come to aviation.
And Eric, it wouldn't be right to sit here in the James C. Ray building and not talk about James C. Ray and the foundation. Yeah. So could you use some more funding?
Oh, we can always use more. We're a nonprofit, but yes, we can always use more funding.
And people say, when nonprofit, Embry-Riddle is my alma mater, and they're nonprofit. I just came back from a week-long symposium over there. My goodness, what they've done with that campus.
I know. It continues to grow every year.
But it's taking the money and the funds that they get legitimately, and they put it back into the school. Sure. It's not going in somebody's pocket.
Right.
So that's the reason I encourage folks that if you do have funding, and you want to have some, you're going to give your thumbnail for support.
It's about
Think
impact
about it.
and making a difference.
Sure it is.
You know,
It's just money.
folks who like to donate to causes, you know, and there are plenty of great efforts out there. Some people want to be involved in community service organizations. They think that's really, and I completely agree, that's an awesome effort. You know, other people like to support the arts. Great, awesome. We need more of that, by all means. But and again, I'm biased, and I'm allowed to be biased because I work here. But I think what we do has a unique kind of impact, because in most cases, and if you talk to our scholarship alumni who've gone through the program, 177 private pilots have been created from that scholarship since it started in 2013. You know, if you talk to those guys, almost all of them will tell you, like, there was no way I could have done this without the scholarship. So it's not just about giving kids some money and putting them in an airplane. It's about opening a whole different future for those kids than they would have ever been able to experience otherwise. And that's, if you asked me, what are you most proud about? It's that.
Well, and again, I want to see this replicated as much as possible. And I don't know how to do it other than just talking it up. And again,
we can tell you a lot of things not to do. We learned a lot. A lot of things not to do along the way, and a lot of things that you should do. But really, it comes down to that, a group of people, a coalition who says, we got to make this happen.
How about city and municipalities? Are they more or less get behind it, or is it the school?
Yeah, I think that really
boards? 'Cause
depends. I mean, it depends on an area, right? So in the city of Lakeland, we have a city commission and city leadership that understand the value of their airport. There are a lot of municipalities out there, I don't know, we own this thing, it's way out on the edge of city limits, we don't know what it is. I mean, there's plenty of that out there. And you see it because there's always threats to airports from developers, you know, that the city or the county doesn't understand the benefit that they have of having this airport. We built all these things around the country for a reason. There's a reason why most of the people around the world come here to learn to fly. Like so we really need these airports. And I think part of it is the city leadership who can succinctly say what the airport is for, what its utility is, and then understand what the industry needs, not just now, but over take the long view, because you know this, but aviation is a cyclical industry. It's we don't like plateau and just stay there for 50 years. It's more like an EKG. We look like this.
It's up and down.
And you have to be ready for that. You have to understand that. But again, that's where the industry partners come. So it can't just be municipal. It can't just be school districts. It can't just be industry, because industry doesn't know how to speak education. It really takes all of those parties together to get to yes.
And as we were talking about earlier, Eric, and you know, this is what our passion comes from, aviation, is safety. And this is why Florida Aviation Network kind of exists, as we talk safety.
Right.
And I'm glad to hear that there's a strong proponent of safety that's shared with your students here.
Well, you have to balance that excitement with the reality of what we're doing, right? No one needs to walk around with rose-colored glasses on for anything, but particularly in aviation. I mean, you're literally defying gravity every time you get in the airplane. And jokingly, sometimes I say, we've never lost one up there, minus alien abduction, if that's a thing. They all come back to Earth, right? So ideally, we want them to come back under control. And the best way to do that is to make sure that people understand not to be, worrywarts or to talk about, fear. That's not the point. But when it hits the fan, as it will at some point, if you do this long enough, you either fall back to fear or to training. Right? And if your training's good, you fall back to training. But if it's not, you fall back to fear. And then you make bad decisions or no decision, and then you're in trouble. And so from the very beginning, we have to start with safety. It's checklists. It's a proper pre-flight. It's communication with your instructor in air traffic control, understanding that you're not there by yourself. There are plenty of people who want to help you. And we got to approach it with that attitude.
And not cutting any corners. I mean, there's a lot of folks in some industries that they really they try to engineer safety out of it by cutting so many corners, making it so efficient that they make it ineffective. And there's a reason for our many multiple layers of fallback, and I think that's probably going to be one thing I'm going to be pushing for once I grow up.
The human is part of the system, right? You need the system, but you need the human, and that has to balance. You can't rely on the automation because the automation only knows what you tell it to do, but you're prone to making mistakes. So you have to know that and be willing to look to see, is this a cognitive bias issue? Have I convinced myself that it's better or worse than it is? But you have to understand you're part of that interlocking system. And when you see that system not working, then it's time to start asking for help.
Yeah.
If I had $1 for every time I have seen an accident report where all the pilot had to do was ask ATC for a delaying vector, just can you send me out somewhere and give me more time to think about this? Yeah. And that would have been the difference.
I'm going to land if it kills me.
Yeah, well, and sometimes it will. Yeah, we got to prevent that.
Eric, let's stay hooked up on doing this.
Always.
And,
I enjoy seeing you guys every year. I'm so glad y'all are here and telling the story.
I'm going to come over to the lab. I want to see some stuff.
Get on the simulator, see if you're any good.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. He just threw the gauntlet down. I'll take it. A slap on the wrist with a glove. All right, well, thank you very much. We're going to sign off with this interview, and I want to go over and see what's going on across the street here. And we're going to solve this one. We're going to go to the next one and see you next interview.